down, chop it down, chop it down, you gon' chop it down. Chop it down, you gon' chop it down. I just appreciate everybody watching. Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome in everybody to Trap or Dive post game recap. JB, I see you, man. Let's go ahead and get through his comments. I know he's feeling some type of way. I know a couple people feeling some type of way. I'm getting some messages from some friends. They ain't too happy about how this thing played out. JB said, I don't know about this game. I know the defense is garbage. Gibson is forever picking up 1 yard carries. Man, dude started the game. Davis with a sack, and I was like, here we go. And then dude got blasted for the rest of the game. Well, as you all can tell, Washington lost the game 36-27. A lot of people probably wasn't anticipating this type of performance in terms of like how it started. Obviously, when we talked, everybody, Dre, AJ again, and welcome in. The first thing we said was this wasn't, or excuse me, I said it because everybody didn't think the same. This wasn't a must-win game for Washington, but if you lost, the worst case scenario for us was getting smoked. In that first half, down 22-0, you dug a hole, man, and things were not good for the rest of the day. Welcome in, fellas. I'll give the floor to you all for your opening thoughts. But this slow start for Washington ultimately dooms them. And then we have a whole bunch of things in between that really hurt these guys as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, man, just on every aspect of the game, they got outcoached, outperformed, poor execution, poor game planning. You still seeing the same exact things from last week as far as even in coverage. You seen Jamin Davis having to be out there on St. Brown. Jack Del Rio got to go, man. Like, at the end of the day, when you sit there and call out your players publicly to the media about their performance, shit, what about your fucking performance? You feel me? Like, this is not a reactionary thing because of the game. It's more so I felt like the issues that showed up today is the exact issues I was concerned about with the team going forward. Offensively, Scott Turner had no rhythm with this offense. Poor play calling all first half. Second half was more so, Detroit kind of like chilled a little bit. They got comfortable with the lead, so they took advantage of it. And then, you do start scoring some points and feeling like you're getting some momentum and coming back in the game. And what does Ron Rivera do? Go for fucking two. He just poor clock management, just poor analytics. I don't know what type of math was going on at all, but it's just all over the place with this team. And next week you got Philly. So you let Jared Goff literally beat you with his arm today. Like, DeAndre Swift got off in the beginning of the game, but after that long run, he really didn't get implemented back into the run at all. So you legit was getting beat by Jared Goff, which is insane. Like, Jared Goff? Nah, bro. But I'm gonna let Dre talk.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the start of this game, it was, when you watch a team struggle in all three facets of the game, and it was all three facets, because special teams was horrible, defense was horrible, offense was horrible in the first half. Nothing went well in the first half. My first go-to was I'm going to coaching, because for me, that's a team that's not prepared to play this game. They weren't prepared to go run through a wall, and they got punked. They straight up got punked in that first half. And the difference with this game not being a complete embarrassment and blowout was the offense finally showed up in the second half, but the defense was still the defense. I mean, yeah, they forced a couple of 3 and outs, but at the end of the day, when you needed them again to, say, hey, give this offense a chance because the offense was hot in the second half. The defense just completely shit the bed. And I'm at this point now where I'm just completely over Jack Del Rio. Like I wasn't a fan, going into this season with him, but now I'm just completely just off of Jack Del Rio. And I just wouldn't be surprised if you see him, fired at any point in the next couple of games, because this is unacceptable as a defense. And I had some people trying to kind of absolve him on Twitter today. Some people were arguing with me saying, well, it's the players. But I'm like, this, they're saying we don't have the talent on defense or this, that, or the third. But I watched Detroit come into this game with replacement level offensive alignment, and they dominated us. They didn't make excuses. You didn't see Detroit coaches making excuses out there saying, oh, well, we don't have the talent on the offensive line in the trenches where the game is. That's the most important part of the game, in the trenches. But no one made excuses for those guys, and they just went out there and played, and they dominated us. So, I mean, again, for you to start off this way, I have to look at the coaching first in this game. And like I said, if you do anything at all on, in that first half, I mean, you just stop them at one point when you're supposed to stop them. You get a first fucking down early in the game on offense. This is a complete different game, because the offense, I mean, they turned it up in the second half, but you can't play that far from behind and expect to win games in this league. You have to start fast in this league. I mean, you have to come out ready to play your opponent, and Washington was not ready today, and that was just an embarrassment. And the thing is, it's not just an embarrassment. It's a common theme with Washington. And it's not even just a common thing with Ron Rivera. It's just a common theme as a Washington fan watching these guys play football. They just have these games where they just come out and they just don't look prepared at all to play a football game. And I just hate to see that. That's one of the things you just can't absolve. You can't defend. Like, you have to come ready to play in this league. I mean, with all that said, I can't overreact too much, because it's just the end of week 2. You're 1-1, and the offense shows some promise. But again, the defense left you nothing to be encouraged about. And that's why I say I would not be surprised to see Jack Del Rio fired for a couple of games.
Hey, but Dre, no, something just fell down. But Dre, you're not overreacting. I mean, I feel like you've seen all the issues with the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator all on display today. Like, I can't sit here and rave about the offense because they ended up putting some points on the board in the second half. At the end of the day, the things that they were doing at the second half, they should have been doing in the first half, but they didn't at all. It's just because it seemed like Scott was sticking to his script. He was not getting creative.
Two things. I 100% agree with you, but I also think there's another thing in between that we're probably overlooking to that point. He may just be late with his adjustments. Like, he may truly be a person who is lacking in terms of how quickly he can adjust to an offense to a defense, and that it took him an entire first half to say, okay, we're going to come back and this is how we're going to react. Sure, second half adjustments are something that could be overblown too. Like, you can, there's, and this is kind of where I lean. I think you should be able to adjust after every drive. You should also be adjust within a drive. Remember last week, what did we all talk about from the Jacksonville game? We talked about how Scott Turner told, and we all noticed, and I see you all in the comments. I'm gonna catch up with the comments in a second. Appreciate everybody who's joining in right now. Like, subscribe if you're new, if you haven't been around, all that good stuff. Appreciate that. But we had talked about Jacksonville, and we said that Scott Turner told Wentz in the huddle on that drive that he threw the bomb to Terry. He said, stick with Terry a little bit longer, bro. Now, that's something in terms of coaching and communicating. That's one thing, but that was something that they saw in terms from an adjustment, like coming back to a same play in which the cornerback was lacking. Like, if you saw what the cornerbacks and the defense were doing in the first half, that rarely changed when they came out of the breaks the second half. Like, they continued to apply pressure. They continued to stay in man coverage up until I think they started having some issues with Okuda and some other things, and they started playing like some zone but they're still sending pressure. Like, that pressure part never stopped. You should have had an opportunity to understand in that first half, AJ and Dre, that we need to make these changes now and not wait until the half where we can gather the troops and have a bigger discussion. This should have been something going on in drive. This should have been something that was going on after drives were over, to come back on the sideline and communicate. And what's even worse about all of this altogether is the fact that not only was the play calling not working, these motherfuckers was asleep behind the wheel. Like, I've never seen a team come out of the gates in week 1 look like have those lapses in which they did, overcome them, win the game, and then understand that you should know that you are no better. Like you have nothing, you have no advantage on Detroit. Like why is there no intensity on your side, and it takes you 2 quarters to come around and say, you know what, it's time to wake up. That it's a lot of issues.
Is there coaching staff, man? Like they're not prepared. Like, I mean, just think about it. The first drive that Detroit came out of, their main target on offense in the passing game is St. Brown. This motherfucker's wide open. Like, he had a fucking game today, bro. And that's the main person that you needed to stop defensively in the passing game. Aside from stopping the run, the other target that you needed to stop was St. Brown. And you completely failed with that. There was no bracket coverage. There was no
DeAndre Swift and St. Brown, bro. That's all we had.
Yeah. Yep. There was no intentions of stopping any of these people. Like, they did exactly what they wanted to do. If the game, Detroit could have did whatever they wanted today. And that offensive line looked like it was like varsity versus freshman today. Like, honestly, like, I know some of y'all raved about Charles Leno last week. That boy got bullied today. He should definitely go to principal.
He had a couple of bad reps, but he had a good game last week.
He had a lot of bad reps. Like, that boy was getting dogged.
He had a couple bad reps.
He had more.
But I can't take away last week. Last week was good. It is what it is. You can't take that away.
Yeah,
well, but I get you. He had a bad game today. You got called out. It is what it is. He had some rough times.
Watching the offensive line look like Detroit's offensive line playing with backups. Like, I couldn't even tell Detroit didn't play with Frank, Frank, their all-pro, and they were missing 2 other guys on the offensive line at all today.
Facts. Yeah.
Like, I could not tell. Jonathan Allen had no impact on the game. Cole Holcomb had no impact. Jamin Davis, they used him more in the blitzing packages, but for whatever reason, in the second half, they started rotating him with Mayo. So, of course, personnel-wise, if I see number 51 trot out there, I'm going to the passing game because he can't cover. And that's exactly what Detroit did. They went to the passing game. They hit them with the play action.
We ain't even get to the secondary yet. AJ, you talking about the front 7. You ain't even get to the secondary.
Yeah, even Washington. Like, Scott Turner kept calling play actions, and I'm like, you're not even running the ball or getting successful yardage on the run plays to be calling play action so repeatedly. Like, what are you play action? Nobody's gonna bite down on anything. They don't believe in the run. So it's just poor coaching top to bottom, and it put the players in bad positions. And they came out with this L, and even still had an opportunity to possibly get back fully in the game. And then their head coach messes it up by not understanding basic mathematics. Like, the math is not math.
No, that's a fact. Dre, I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think about this that decision to go for 2? We haven't even touched on the fact that, like, there was opportunities in between that, but that decision to go for 2 when you're down 8, 10 minutes left in the game. People say analytics, but I'm like, bro, sometimes logic tells you got 10 minutes left in the game, bro. What is analytics going to save you from when you're down 8? Kick the fucking field goal.
Yeah, I absolutely hated the decision to go for 2 right there. I mean, I get you're gambling, and I feel like part of the reason he did that is because he didn't trust the defense. Like, he just didn't trust the defense in this game, and he felt like if he had a chance. But even still, I hated that call. It just, for me, wasn't the time to go for 2 right there with your offense hot. But at the end of the day, that didn't even matter at the end of this game because the defense didn't make a stop the next drive. We didn't have a chance to go down and tie the ball game up that next drive. I mean, the game was pretty much over once the defense allowed that jet sweep to go for like 50 or 60 yards, and Detroit scores a touchdown. Yeah, and then that embarrassing, one of the most embarrassing plays I've ever seen in my life, where DeAndre Swift catches a screen pass that should have been stopped for 5 or 6 yards, falls on his ass, gets up and runs a touchdown. That just summed the defense up for me in a nutshell. But I kind of wanted to get back to Scott Turner a little bit and to say, I like Scott Turner, and I think he does some things well, but I did hate out there today where, and I said this pregame, I said one of the biggest keys to this game is getting the ball out of Carson Wentz's hands quickly, and because Detroit's going to be an aggressive attacking team, and that didn't happen at all in the first half. And when the offense started getting into rhythm and they started doing things right in the second half was when they started making the easy plays first. You started getting Curtis Samuel involved, early in, the second half where he's catching the screen passes, keeping Detroit honest. And that's when everything else started opening up. But they waited until the second half to do that. And that was a criticism or critique I had of Scott Turner in this game. And he waited way too long to adjust. And I felt like he didn't attack Detroit's biggest weakness on that defense is their aggressiveness. And that's how Detroit dominated that offense in that first half. But again, that defense is just, like I said, it's atrocious. I mean, like I said, the whole call for the 2-point conversion at the end of the day didn't even matter because the defense couldn't make stops. They couldn't make stops at the end of this game or in the fourth quarter. And Detroit just outclassed them all day long.
Yeah, and I mean, just let me just jump in there real quick with Scott Turner, man. It's like he's just not a good play caller. Like he's a below average play caller. Once again, week 2, we're going into the fact that he didn't make an emphasis on targeting Terry McLaurin until the second half. It's just repeated stuff that keep happening that we can't bypass.
Fellas, I knew shit was bad for Scott Turner in that first half when he elected to go for a flea flicker on 2nd and 8.
To Cam Sims, bro.
One of the best drives you had in that first half. You said, you know what, man, we gonna fuck him up with this one. We gonna run this flea flicker 2nd and 8, and we gonna make sure we get him for a touchdown. Like everybody's in a rhythm on this drive. So why run any trickery? I understand sometimes you want to get defense flowing in some type of way. I respect that. Like that always happens. But like, what's even worse is you did it after Detroit did it. Like. It's feel like you was influenced by their decision. Like that's the only thing I can think of, because you have no reason to really go outside of your calls, outside of the way you want things to get done on your offense, and keep moving the ball when you have some semblance of momentum, some semblance of we can finally get things going, and you run on 2nd and 8 a flea flicker to keep you behind the sticks. But not only that. When he ran that joint, it almost got picked off. Carson Wentz threw it to nobody. Like he closed his eyes.
It looked like he didn't even know a pass was being thrown.
It should have got picked. And then you're running all the speed you have on the team. You're running with Cam Sims. Like, but look, it just made no we talk about this, damn sense.
AJ and Mual, what? This was a game where you missed Brian Robinson. I think now we see it's not just the fumbles by Antonio Gibson. It's not just the fumbles. He just doesn't have the vision. He's getting 1 fucking yard per carry on these plays. You can't tell me Brian Robinson wouldn't do a little better.
I don't think it's a Brian Robinson issue. And Brian
14 carries for 28 yards, by the way. 2 yards of carry for Antonio Gibson. Man. 21 carries, 88 yards for the entire offense. Go ahead, AJ.
Brian Robinson, if you're listening to Trap or Die podcast by 214 Media post-game show with Mual and Dre, my brother, do not rush yourself to come back and play running back for this team. Because even if he was back there at running back, Scott Turner would not utilize him correctly. And he would have.
That was the way he utilized Gibson is how Brian Robinson would be strong.
Every time Gibson did get a carry, most of the time they try to get him to go outside. Like it was scripted for him to go outside. And if you put Robinson in the game, you definitely know that they're about to run the ball. Like the way that they're using the offense right now and their pieces, like it would be easy to key on. Like I don't see Scott Turner wanting to emphasize on running the ball. He wants to get flashy and tricky with Carson Wentz.
AJ, I thought they emphasized it too much in that first half. I thought the running game was the run game. It was emphasized too much in that first half. I mean, well, for it to not be working, you know.
Let's see.
I don't think I remember them running a lot in the first half that much.
So Washington had. I'm just going through the count. Washington had 1, 2, 3. This is in order that I'm naming, but 1, 2, 3. The third one being a safety. 2 straight 3-and-outs, 4 straight non-first downs, a safety in the mix, a punt on the 4th possession, 3-and-out, 5 straight 3-and-outs, and then you have a punt on 6 plays, a punt on 6 plays again, and that ends your first half. So the longest drive that you sustained for your offense was a 6-play drive for 14 yards, and it lasted 2 minutes. And you were down 22-0 at the time. I think that's the one with the flea flicker. So That's kind of how that first half went. In terms of like being able to run the ball or establish anything, they couldn't get shit going. A lot of plays went for a yard or two, or sacks. So that's kind of how things went for these guys in that first half, fellas. Okay, so let's go ahead and catch up with some of the comments, and then also everybody that's in the chat, appreciate everybody checking. I'm gonna go ahead and send an invite to anybody and everybody that wants to join. And then also one sentence takeaway from today's game. Let's see what y'all got. We'll catch up on some things. So here we go. Jay Tyler. Oh, Merle said the same. He said, Merle said, I want the Ron Rivera Colts to defend this performance. Don't ever call out another player again. Jay mentioned, Jay Tyler mentioned, I'm with AJ now. Fire all these niggas. Wanda Bread, Dale Fire. This one is throwing me off. Dale Fire-Rio. But I love it. It's I get it. I get the sentiments. Jay said Ron is too soft for these guys. Maggot Jack has to get shit canned tonight. That make that motherfucker catch his own flight back. K. David Williams, to give to the credit to the other team, I understand it. He said I'm out. Golf is a Super Bowl quarter. All right, well that part I don't agree with, but I get it. Yeah, Golf is a Super Bowl quarterback who helms an offense responsible for putting 35 points plus points up against Green Bay, Philly, and Washington. Detroit is nothing better. Let me go ahead and change this so AJ get back. Detroit is nothing better. Where is he at? Detroit is better. Nothing cute, just better. Kay, I understand your sentiment, but Golf, look, the only way you would say Golf is a Super Bowl quarterback who put up 35 plus points against XXXX, all that stuff, is if you see a performance like he had today. That shit don't happen on the regular. And you named 3 teams, respectfully, right? Like, you named 3 teams. One of them was Washington. The other game happened last week. And they were trailing last week to put up those 35 points and a loss. They were trailing 17 and lost. This time, they're putting up 39 or 36 against Washington, and they were in control the whole game. Carson Bell, what's going on, Sir Philly? Carson balled for you guys. You need to help Carson out on defense. And Dre, let's go ahead and get into Carson Wentz as well to finish this one here today. Let's go ahead and go through some more. Offensive line was trash, played better second half, but overall disappointing by 757. Appreciate you checking in. Wonder Bread said Turner makes me think he needs to be behind to put the pedal on the floor, and that's a shame. Wonder Bread, Fuller's a top 25 cornerback. Think he's better than he is. William Jackson III is something. He is some ass. Jeff Goat Montel said, I know I mention this often, but being unable to run the ball is an understatement, part of what's missing. I think that's kind of key too. Like, Dre, and I'll get this one of you, and then we can get into Wentz. We talked about it briefly with AJ, but running the ball is like, if you couldn't establish anything, at the very least you have to try and get something going on the ground game. And for them to really have, like, the biggest rushes came from Carson Wentz on one drive, and he had 23 yards on two carries. And if you eliminate those, you're at 20 or 19 carries for 60-something yards, Dre. So being able to run the game or run the ball and not being able to establish anything, to Montel's point, I think is a credible statement. But and you're forcing Carson Wentz, who got sacked 5 times and threw it 46 times, to put more pressure on his shoulders.
And that's what I was just kind of explaining to AJ when he was on, is that this is the game where you needed Brian Robinson. I mean, just watch the last game where we played against the Jaguars. We didn't run a traditional running game for the most part. We kept everything with the screen game. We kind of used the passing game to set up any kind of run game last week. We were getting the ball to the playmakers. But this game, you got a different defense. So, you weren't playing the same type of defense. Detroit plays a lot more aggressively, and they were aggressive early in this game. And we seemed like we had no answer for that. And the answer, I guess, for Scott Turner, I'm trying to make sense of it, but the answer for him was to try to run a little bit more. Like, they had a couple of series where they ran the ball the first 2 downs at a drive, which they didn't do last week. Last week, it was mostly we're passing the ball first, and then we'll set up the run when we can. But again, and a couple of those were inside the tackle runs, and Antonio Gibson gets 1 to 2 yards here and there. And that's why you drafted Brian Robinson. And I believe because you want to utilize Antonio Gibson in different ways. Whereas Brian Robinson is a guy, he can see the holes. He knows where to go with the football. He could turn some of those 1-yard gains into 3 to 4 yard gains. I mean, we saw that in preseason. I mean, that's just, he's a natural running back, and you definitely miss him in this game. So, we played right into Detroit's strengths, and they never seemed to adjust early on, and that's what really frustrated me. So again, when you play against these type of fronts, this is when Curtis Samuel becomes a big part of your offense, because Curtis Samuel gets the ball, you can get him the ball on a quick screen pass, he makes plays. And you saw it not even just Curtis Samuel in the second half. You saw Terry McLaurin getting jet sweep actions. I think even Jahan Dotson had one of those kind of actions. So I mean, they were getting these guys the ball in ways you wanted to see them get the ball in the first half, and I really thought that hurt them. But again, I mean, you just want to see Scott Turner adjust a little bit earlier. Hopefully, next game you got the Eagles. I mean, you're gonna have to move on pretty fast, but you got to start fast. That's the most important thing with this team. You cannot play from behind, especially with this defense, because when you play from behind like they did against Detroit today, then you're just forced to play that other team's game. And that's what Washington did today. And like I said, the defense, you can't count on them to get too many stops in the game. Any stop they get, you just got to, raise your hands and celebrate like, oh, we did it. But when you're down so many points in this game, you have to rely on them a lot more than you really want to rely on them. And I know that's sad to say, but that's just the reality of this team right now.
Man, I don't think it even matters what the offense does, because at the end of the day, defense ain't stopping nobody. So does it really matter? I mean, I think maybe it looks cute for us as fans not being able, to be able to see an offense score some points and make some plays, because haven't really seen that consistently here for a while. But if the defense ain't stopping nobody, it don't matter. Like, I'm on Twitter, I'm seeing the presser that Ron Rivera did after the game. He's talking about Jamin Davis was inconsistent. He said, we are running out of time. We got to go out and got to be consistent. Motherfucker, are you talking about yourself? Like, I don't like that shit. Like, I think that they overdrafted on Jamin Davis, right? At the end of the day, like, why are you calling him out and repeatedly doing it in the media? We only in week 2. What about your coaching staff? What about you yourself as a head coach? Like, when are you going to start putting some of the blame on yourself as far as the things that you've done personnel-wise, the decisions that you've made on the field and off the field, and on top of that, your coordinators that you have in place trying to put these guys in proper positions offensively and defensively? Like, I just don't feel like, overall it even matters what the offense does, because the defense ain't stopping nobody right now. Next week, you're going against A.J. motherfucking Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And Jalen Hurts, who's definitely going to be keeping the ball on some bootlegs, some RPOs. He's definitely going to be involved in the running game as well, alongside Miles Sanders.
So here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the screen. Here's what Ron Rivera said on the loss overall. There's a couple more that I want to kind of sift through, but it's probably gonna be just this one until we find. Okay, here we go. Cause I'm over here rapping. I'm gonna just share it. Unmute that.
Oh, and I just seen Chase Rouillet is on crutches. It gets worse.
God bless. God bless. Here it go right here. All right, let's get to it. Here's Ron Rivera.
Situations we did, not all the time. Okay, don't twist it. Okay, don't twist it. You hear what I'm saying? Okay, we got to make sure we're putting them in position to play, and they have to play as well. This is a whole team. You want to blame everybody? Blame us all. Okay, but let's be careful with it.
What was that in reference to?
Bro, I was just about to say, I wish I knew this goddamn tweet didn't help out anything. I thought it was gonna be something else. I never heard it. Let me see if I had another one. I'm gonna see. This is the 2-pointer. We can just run it right quick.
Send the math. Send the math. You guys should appreciate the analytics of it. Okay. Send the math.
We talked about it, bro. That's really gonna frustrate me. All right, so here we go. Let's see.
I'm not concerned.
So Ron Rivera, sorry, my bad. Ron Rivera is not concerned. For those who maybe need some glasses or something, respectfully, this is in reference to Ron Rivera concerned after the Commanders loss. And I got a question after this, and we can go ahead and separate for the evening. I want to talk about that defense one more time, because AJ brought up a really good point. We were talking about it, but AJ brought up a really good point, and we need to discuss something that has not been discussed just yet. So here we go.
I'm not concerned. You know, we weren't at full strength, okay? But having said that, they still ran against us. You got to give them credit. That's a very gritty football team. They came out. They had a lot of energy early on. They fed off the energy around the crowd, and they made a couple things happen, and we didn't respond. Came out in the second half. We responded. We fought. We battled. We did some good things. I think you got to look at, you know, more than just what you see on the surface. There's a lot more to what happens. I'm not concerned. You know, all
right. So that was the last thing that I have. And we can get back to it. But you kind of get to understand. Let me stop sharing my bed. All right, there we go. So you kind of understand Rivera's perspective. Obviously, that's an appropriate perspective to have for a head coach. But there's a couple things here that is showing itself in the sense of we've seen this before. There's two things. First thing is, he's like the guy. Like I love my head coach, my flag head coach Sherm. Where I swear. So if Sherm and Lil Sherm, I know you watch sometimes, but if y'all are listening to this, understand. You all know, yeah, I've been around for years. I don't mean no disrespect, but Sherm, oh my goodness, he's the head coach who's like, you just suffered a very annoying loss or a very frustrating loss or a very embarrassing loss. And the first thing that he'll do when he has his speech is say, we played well, fellas. Like, it's okay. Understand what odds were up against this type of thing. Like, this is kind of the situation that Rivera is putting out there is like, I'm not concerned. We weren't at full strength, but neither were the Lions. The Lions were missing their interior offensive lineman. Jeff Okudah got hurt in the game. And then the Lions were missing from the beginning their second best cornerback of the game. And they did not come up with any excuses. They came out and put up a 22-point lead that ultimately saved them from a comeback from Washington. So I don't want to sit here and over-exaggerate the fact that I have seen this 1,000 times from Ron Rivera, but I will say there's one thing in which I've seen before is that if you aren't staring your issues in the face, then that's a problem. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is obviously if you all want to talk about the comments or whatever you can. The second thing is to AJ's point before we started listening to this stuff, David Mayo should not be schemed up or be allowed in space in a situation like that. And I understand that you thought that it was probably a run play or you were guessing run, but ultimately when you guess like that and you expose him to the issues that you had on the field or that or putting him out in space and saying that you got to cover a second string tight end, he can't cover a third string tight end. Like you can't cover anybody out there. Like you don't have the athletic ability to flip your hips and have that fluidity downfield. So anybody can really stretch you vertically if you have David Mayo lined up against you. So from a scheme standpoint, this defense is in trouble. It don't matter like if you have Mayo out there or Jamin Davis. Like you're gonna find you better find a solution. And maybe Cam Curl is that guy, but they are having some problems, and it showed itself in the first two games.
Man, and we're not putting a lot of pressure. Well, I mean, I am in my mind and my thoughts, but Cole Holcomb is trash. Like, has done nothing, has no impact on the game whatsoever. Run game, passing game is even worse. Like, there was a play downfield where I literally seen him spin around like Michael Jackson. Like, he had no clue what was going on. Like, he was trying to get depth within his coverage, but just had no clue what was going on and literally did a spin move. Like, at the end of the day, it's just this is who they put out there for their defense. That's why I expected nothing to change from last year because it's literally the same defense. There's been no changes. They added to Darian Mathis, who got injured, unfortunately, and he's out for the rest of the season, week 1. Outside of that, nothing has been added. They lost depth with their rotation, with their front. They didn't add anybody in the secondary. They now have Ben trying to, adapt to playing the slot position. It's the same defense with the same play caller, and he's still calling the same shit. The scheme is, I don't even know what the scheme really is, but it's just like, just go out there and get some cardio, fellas. Like that's pretty much what the scheme is because this motherfucker's open left and right, and they're not stopping anybody. So it's just frustrating. I mean, I don't know. I think some coaches in this position would be like, yeah, man, last year our defense looked pretty damn bad. Here we are in the same position again. I got to make a change. I got to inject some new blood.
I got to do better.
Defense. I got to do better. Let me go ahead and get rid of Ron and maybe elevate Chris Harris. Like, cause at the end of the day, like, it's not looking better, bro. Like, you're gonna be playing better offenses. Like, you play Jacksonville. Jacksonville easily could have won that game if they took advantage of the opportunities they had. You play Detroit. You make Jared Goff look like a all-pro quarterback. I don't care about his history with the Rams and leading them to the Super Bowl. He didn't lead them to the Super Bowl. He just was a part of the process. But us coming into this game, our whole objective was, man, put 8 in the box and force Jared Goff to beat you. You didn't even force him to beat you. Like,
You couldn't even get pressure on that,
wide
man.
open. Yeah,
You could. I take that back, but it wasn't consistent.
Yeah, so it's just like, you gotta make some type of adjustment, and that comes with the coaching staff. If you can get rid of Sam Mills within training camp as a D-line coach, you can also make an adjustment at D coordinator or something.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that press conference, Ron looks pissed. I mean, it looks like he was trying to hold some stuff back, but he should be pissed. I mean, he should be pissed at himself. He should be pissed at, his staff, everybody involved. And I'm just specifically looking at the defense because this is just where you just continually show that you're just not a good football team. You're just not a good football team on that side of the ball. And you have to look, start at the top down. Ron is first. I mean, Ron is involved in player personnel. There's weaknesses on this team that's been there for a couple of years now, and it hasn't been addressed. And then you have to look at Jack Del Rio. I mean, this guy, Jack Del Rio, like I said, his reputation coming to Washington was that he was just this great defensive coordinator. Then I'm just seeing this guy that just looks like the game has passed him by. Like, yeah, his better years are behind him. Where the game is today, Jack Del Rio just hasn't evolved with it. I mean, and that just goes to show with just what how they view the linebacker position in general. And it's not just the linebacker; the secondary is an issue as well. I mean, they just get gashed. It seems like at every level on the defense, and teams don't run the ball too much these days, as we didn't see a lot with Jacksonville, but Jacksonville was very effective running the ball against us. Detroit, very effective running the ball against us. So what are you good at on this defense? Right now, I can't say you're good anywhere on the defense. We've hyped up this defensive line for years now. Is nothing to show for it. I mean, none of these guys, and we, Daron Payne, he looks good so far this season, but it doesn't really matter if you're just not really impacting this game in a positive way on the defense. I mean, Jonathan Allen is we know he's a great player, but I guess he's dealing with an injury right now. He didn't make too much of an impact in this game. Montez Sweat, I'm just continually wondering, when is this guy going to take the next level in the defensive line? And I'm calling out the defensive line because this is the first round picks. This is your litany of first round picks. This is your strength for the defense. And we talked about the defensive line supposedly making everybody else better with pressure, but we just don't see it. We see guys like Jared Goff beating us. And like I said, my strategy going into the game was stack the box, make Jared Goff beat you, and he did beat you. It wasn't by itself. The running game was good too, but fucking Jared Goff beat you too today. So it's like, what are you good at on that side of the football? So yes, Ron, you should be pissed off, but we need to see some action with you being pissed off, because if you just being pissed off, the only thing that's hurting is you, and that's why the old saying goes, it's better to be pissed off than to be pissed on. But nothing's coming of you being pissed off right now. Like what good is coming out of this right now until we see something? Like, hey, we need to see some fucking action, Ron. Like, yeah, you're mad, but what's going to come of it? And this is your baby. This is your team. You got your guys in here. This is your defense. And they're getting embarrassed weekly. And this is going on 2 years now. So, hey, what are you going to do?
He's just going to stand there and be like, that's all he ever does during the game. Like,
it's a 2K cutaway.
Every time they put the camera on him,
hey, bro, these episodes that AJ lives for, bro, I love this shit. I love it. Okay, fellas, man, we're good today. Let's go ahead and catch up on some one sentence takeaways. Again, chat, let us know, man, how y'all feeling. What's y'all one sentence takeaway from this thing? Some things some of the responses I got on Twitter, it's the Gruden years all over again, because the only capable unit is the offense. That's from P Buck CS. Mine after Matt, we have an offense but have no defense. Cole Killer, they are who I thought they were. Chilled on the rocks. Our pass protection may not be as good as we thought. Well, chill. I told you all you better be careful about this interior offensive line. So maybe as good as you thought. Respectfully. Amani, appreciate you checking. I see you in the chat as well. The defense is who we thought they were and who we thought they are. Shout out to Dennis, the OG. Mr. Do Numbers, the players are resilient. Caleb embarrassing. Obi San Juan, too little, too late. Anthony Armstrong. That felt a little bit differently, going a little bit differently in my mind. Shout out to the quality gift there, or GIF, whatever the hell they say. Zim, our guy Zim Dre. It's been 3 years, and this is the crap that Ron has been putting out. And a couple more because it's a lot. Shooters Dre, my boy Dre, buckle up. Southside Jim, we're going to play just well enough to avoid a top 10 impact player and wholesale staff personnel changes. And then lastly, Washington Derps fire Jack Del Rio yesterday with a screenshot of Washington allowing touchdown, and then turnover on downs from Detroit towards the end of the game. So there's that. Fellas, I hate to do it in a loss, but I guess just to continue some consistency, MVP and LVP, and we up out of here. I'll start mine. My MVP for us is Jahan Dotson. I said that he had to have a big game, and unfortunately, he can only catch the ball that's thrown to him. And he didn't really see many. No receiver really saw targets in that first half, but he saw his targets in the second half and made the best of them. Made some really big plays. He actually provided the initial spark for the offense that Washington needed. Jahan Dotson, my MVP. My LVP is William fucking Jackson. But if I had to go macro or maybe a whole picture, I'm just gonna say Jack Del Rio. My LVP is Jack Del Rio. He blew this game. That defense blew this game multiple times where they could have helped and got a huge stop and stopped the bleeding on themselves by creating a turnover. They could have done so, and the LVP for this game really is for me is Jack Del Rio.
Yeah, my MVP, I'll go with Carson Wentz today. I thought he had a solid second game. I thought everything was rough in the first half, but it wasn't all on him in the first half. It was, the offensive line just couldn't do anything. But again, I don't think they were helped out a lot by the game plan in the first half. I thought we played right into Detroit's hands. But with all of that said, I thought Carson just had a really solid game overall. Not just looking at the numbers, but he gave the team a chance in the second half. But it's just only so much you can do when you're playing down by so much and relying on a defense is just not good to make stops in the game. So Carson's my MVP. LVP, I'm going with you, Mual. I had Jack Del Rio as my LVP. Actually, not even Jack Del Rio. I take that back. I'm going with Ron Rivera as a whole. Ron Rivera is the LVP today.
It's a good one.
Because, the team in itself just wasn't prepared. They came out, and like I said, it wasn't just one level. So, like I said, that's why I can't just put it on Jack Del Rio. The offense, defense, and special teams all look like shit in the first half, and they just weren't prepared to play this football game. And when that happens, I'm always going to look at the head coach. So Ron Rivera is my LVP.
I guess for LVP, definitely will say Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, and
this nigga DK Metcalf, Brad. Y'all gonna see it. Go ahead, keep going. Y'all gonna see it though.
I was confused, but
Bro,
my LVP, my LVP is Ron Rivera and Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, and Jack Del Rio. I feel like on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, they didn't have their team prepared. They didn't make proper adjustments alongside the game. They waited until halftime to adjust, especially on offense. Defensively, they didn't really change anything at all. Kept putting guys in poor position to defend the marquee players that you should be stopping and who you should be game planning to prevent to have an impact on the game. They were just doing whatever they wanted to. I just feel like even special teams is bad,
Yes.
Poor clock management. It was overall a bad game by the coaching staff. Poor clock management. Joey Slide missing another extra point. I don't know what's going on there. I don't believe he's hurt. So that doesn't even give it a reason to go for two when you just needed to go for extra point to make it a 7-point game. There was no reason to do that. You ended up failing on that, and you put yourself in an even worse position when you started to even get closer. Like when you started getting momentum, you just took the momentum right away, missing extra points and also missing the 2-point conversions. Just Ron. I don't know. Some people get so tied up in these damn analytics, man. It's like, bro, you played football. You played in the NFL. You played at the highest level of this sport, and you can't just think logically for your own. I guess you could use it as a tool, but to rely on it solely, and then when you get questioned about it, you kind of point back to the analytics, and it's like, no, like you're playing around with people's
And then you tell us it's the math. Like, don't do that
Yeah.
condescending shit, bro. We know you. Like, come on, we know you, bro. Don't do the condescending stuff. Like, we 3 years in, dog. We 3 years
and
in.
the math ain't mathing, so you can't say it's the math, and the math ain't mathing. So, yeah, I mean, for that, it goes to the whole coaching staff. For the MVP, I'd probably say for the game being over, honestly, because that shit was dreadful to watch. I don't have no damn MVP. The whole fucking team sucked today. I don't give a fuck what happened in the second half. They still suck. I guess. I'll stop being facetious. John Dotson, he made some plays. Definitely got some great hands. Held on to the ball in some big time moments. I could tell he was frustrated. Terry was also frustrated. The whole wide receiver corps was frustrated. And you just got to understand with these guys that you do have at your wide receiver position, you don't necessarily have to make crazy opportunities for them down the field. Just put the ball in their hands and let them create. The yard after catch opportunities, you just need to give them more of those. Stop calling the same type of screens over and over. Like, just get the ball in their hands and let them create, whether it be more jet sweeps, things of that nature. But, that's it for me, man. I'm just glad the game is over.
Well, copy that, man. Respectfully. Amani said MVP, Carson, LVP, Scott Turner. Jay Tyler, MVP, Carson, LVP, Del Rio, Wonder Bread, 2K Cutaway, quote unquote, you want to be the DC in DC? I like that one, man. So Wonder said, he's speaking on Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, he was quiet in the second half, Hawk. He did. I think they said he got banged up or it was more so situational. I don't know.
He was limping a lot.
Well,
He was limping a lot.
He was on the sideline. That's why he was quiet. If he was on that field, they wouldn't have done shit.
Yeah.
Oh, and praise up to Trey Lance, man. I saw him get carted off today, man. I don't know how serious it is, but when that cart come out, he got carted off today. When that cart comes out, that's a big thing. So who knows what's happening?
It's done. Jimmy G, the quarterback, he's done.
Over, bro.
Unfortunately.
I ain't gonna lie to y'all though. Just a comment. I wonder what percent.
You wonder what? We can't hear you.
So it's over.
There you go. You back.
Oh, I'm back. All right. Now I was about to
Yes.
say. I wonder what percentage of San Fran players in that locker room probably was like, all right, bet we got Jimmy back in the huddle. Like, not from an actual like I'm glad Trey Lance is hurt, but more so like I'm glad we got Jimmy playing. It got to be a decent percentage.
Yeah.
But okay. That's it for us, man. Hey, enjoy y'all Sundays. Don't be too down on this goddamn game. It is what it is. We're 1-1 heading into the Philly week. Obviously, we aren't done with this game. We'll come back Tuesday to kind of do a little deeper dive after we done got some more information. And obviously, I'm back tomorrow with the Chopper Dive Commanders Morning Show. Y'all be safe. Enjoy y'all day. Enjoy the rest of the games, man. It is what it is, bro. Football is back. We love it. Y'all be safe. Peace.
Yes, sir.